Welcome, everyone, to the April 7th edition of the Soft Lock Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jake, and joining me is the Pepperoni Meister himself, Jonathan. What's going on? How you doing today?
Dude, today is a phenomenal day for the Pepperoni Meister. I was driving my car, and the check engine light went off by itself. I am that...
Celebrate!
Yeah, dude, I'm that stock image of the guy breaking his chains. He's looking out to the sunset. That's what I feel like. Check engine
light is off for now.
Yeah, for now. We have this. It'll probably turn back on if I do one very specific thing, but I'm just gonna not do that very specific thing. And I think that'll work out for me. And also, additionally, today's like the first nice day in a very long time. Short sleeves weather, and I went out to get. Oh yeah, I bet. I went out to get mulch, because I was just sent on that errand today, so I went out to get mulch, and I dressed like a dude who goes and gets mulch. Had like a brown shirt, had like a brownish like green trucker hat that said "Women want me, fish fear me." Jeans, and like boots, and I was like, I am. And I was driving because I'm driving a truck right now. I'm driving like a Chevy Tahoe right now.
With no check engine light on.
With no check engine light on. And I was driving to the Lowe's. I know you have a checkered history with Lowe's.
Mm-hmm.
I was driving to Lowe's, and I was thinking to myself, I am a guy who would buy mulch.
Did you pull around the side and they loaded it in the back for you?
They did.
Fantastic. You tipped the guy.
No, I didn't, because I didn't know that they were going to do that. I did fuck up.
Man.
I did fuck up. Well, okay. In my defense, one, I didn't know that was a thing. Two, I didn't know. Back to one. Sorry, I didn't even know. I didn't know that. I thought I was gonna haul the mulch myself. I really had no idea that they had this system. It's a very good system. I will not lie, but I didn't know, so I didn't bring any cash. If I knew that ahead of time, I definitely would have. Two, it was like a group of 5 guys. It was a group of like 5 like teenagers doing it. So it wasn't just one guy. I don't know. That doesn't really make it like much better, but like it's not like this one guy was like busting his ass doing it. Like they were very efficiently taking it on with like these 5 teens. So, and then if I gave them like a crisp 10, I don't know how they're gonna divide that shit, you know?
Yeah, but, I always get the people to do the mulch for me, and I give them a couple bucks. And I've gone to the same Lowe's every time, but it's always a different guy.
Mm-hmm.
And every single time, they tell me they're gonna go buy a Gatorade with it because they're out there in the steam and heat.
Dude. Yeah, that's another thing. I'm like, this is gonna suck for them in the summer. If it was in the summer and it was really hot, then I'd feel like a real piece of shit. But it was, you know, first nice day. It felt really nice because then I had to move all that mulch myself. So it felt really nice to be moving all that mulch. It was like 20 bags of mulch. It was a lot of mulch. And it felt really nice to be moving that stuff in like the cool breeze, but it was like warm enough and I was like heating up a little bit. It felt good. So I don't feel too bad. And also number 3 to my point, tipping culture in America is fucking insanity. So
I mean, yeah, whenever you're at like the bookstore and they spin the thing around to ask for a tip, I'm like, dude, you're a bookstore, and then I spin it back around.
Yeah, it's like, well, I'm losing track on what the rules are now. Like I really thought tipping was just for waiters and waitresses because they got paid a lower wage because of the tip system. But now that like it feels like almost every position is receiving tips, I don't know what the rules are. I'm in like fucking no man's land. It's really weird. It's really, really strange.
I have been appreciating the heat today. I went outside a little bit, but I was definitely overdressed because I've been expecting it to be cold.
Yeah.
Because I've actually been like cooped up for the last almost 2 weeks because I've been very sick. So I just got over that pretty much today. So we went out to a gem show, looked at some rocks, some cool rocks and stuff. And I was like, man, it's kind of hot. But yeah, I'm enjoying it.
You mentioned that. You said you were going to look at some cool rocks, and I didn't say anything back because I figured you would explain. What is a gem show? So,
you know, like fairy culture, like crystal culture. I want crystals everywhere. Maximalism.
Right. Yeah.
My girlfriend's very into the maximalism and the crystals everywhere. And this is basically just a convention where all the like biggest crystal sellers on the East Coast come together and then set up a giant room. And I don't know how the logistics of this works. Someone's going to have to explain this to me because they throw all these rocks out on the tables, and then they give you a bin, and you fill up the bin, and you take it to the checkout, and you just pay all at once. Surely, like, not one individual person or company owns all of these rocks. Like, how does everyone get their cut? I don't know. It's confusing. But
That is a really good question.
she dropped like 2 bills on rocks, and I bought a necklace for her, and then I got a cool little, like, it is a stereotypical cartoon gem carved out of like a real gem that looks like a Chaos Emerald, and I got a little one to use for D&D as like a treasure marker.
That is cool. That is cool. I do like Chaos Emerald.
I also like Chaos Emerald. When was the last time you played a Sonic game?
Oh, dude. It's been a while. Probably COVID when I played through Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2. But if I ever streamed, which, you know, the becomes a greater appeal in my mind every day. I'm like, I should stream just for shits and giggles for my friends.
You should do it.
I'm like, I want to play. I think I would play Sonic Adventure 2 because I know that game like the back of my hand. And
I think you should.
it'd be fun enough. Yeah.
I also think that you have a pretty good chance of getting the Sonic heads in there if you're streaming on Twitch, which I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. You can use that knowledge with what you will, but I streamed for a year, and I thought it was very fun. But if you are to stream, I wouldn't commit to doing it consistently, but I would commit to doing it a certain time, like a certain number of times before you decided whether it's for you or not.
Yeah, I think I would have to pull a Germa, except instead of operating for over a decade and becoming one of the most influential and funniest streamers ever, and then retiring, I'm just gonna do the retiring immediately, and I'm just gonna stream whenever I'm
retired, so I'm gonna stream when I want. Thanks for watching this one stream.
Yeah, like, cause who knows? Maybe I'll stream like once or twice or something like that, and then I'll be like, I don't know. What if I get into a coma? That's gonna suck.
True.
If I get into a coma for 3 years and I wake up and I go, oh, I missed a lot of streams.
What if your check engine light comes back on while you're on the parkway?
Dude, the day ruins. I would cancel the stream if I was driving. Shit like that ruins me like instantly. Like instant technology failing on me. Instant bad mood for the rest of the day. It's like one of my worst traits and I can't help it. So if I had a stream scheduled, I was like and all my friends excited for it and we're all gonna show up. Check engine light pops up. Over. Canceled. I'm staying in and I'm gonna like lay into my blanket and like think about how I'm gonna drive.
I hear one sound coming from my car and I'm worried about it for the next month.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
but this
tough.
podcast, not about cars, not about mulch. Thanks for tuning in and listening to us banter. The Softlock Podcast. Every couple weeks we're coming to give you a deep dive into our gaming interests and topics. A little housekeeping for you. We're doing a push on Instagram. And by that, I mean we need to start posting on Instagram more, and I've committed to it. I've made templates. So we're going to be posting on Instagram more, so give us a follow at SoftlockPod if you haven't already. Also, new episode of the Halo minicast is out where me and Jonathan are talking about Halo 3 ODST. Come listen, see where it ranks among the Halo games. And then finally, there's a new feature on YouTube. It's been around for a little bit, but they just pushed it to the iPhone app. So really, this is when people will start using it, let's be honest. Where podcasts show up separately from playlists. So if you are subscribed to the Softlock Podcast at SoftlockPod on YouTube, great. You don't have to do anything else, especially if you have the bell on, all good. If you're not subscribed, but you are interested, you can follow the podcast. So we have one for the podcast and one for the minicast. If you go into our channel, you can follow that, and then they're more likely to show up in your feed. So just a heads up if you use YouTube to watch our podcast.
Giving our viewers homework, are you?
I'm giving them options.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think options is what we'll be talking about today, because we're talking about game difficulty.
Whoa.
Which, you know, on paper, you're like, easy, medium, hard. Done. Wrap it up. Podcast over. We don't have to talk about anything else. But we have some pretty good thought starters and discussion questions that I think is going to take us pretty deep into this difficulty rabbit hole. So before we get into that, let's just review some games, talk about what we've been playing. If you listened to the last episode, you saw we reviewed a lot of games. But it's been a while since the last episode, so we have quite a few more. So, do you mind if I start this one off, Jonathan?
Yes.
Okay. Let me follow up a little bit on something I was talking about on the last podcast. So, Last podcast, I did my big breakdown on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I've now rolled credits and put an additional 40 hours into the game.
Damn.
And, it's just all right. No, I'm kidding. It's a fantastic game. I pretty much covered everything I wanted to talk about last time, so I won't retread any ground. Instead, I'll only talk about what I played since then. So, if you remember, I was very worried about where the game was going narrative-wise and how it was going to end. I'm happy to say that it is fine. If you didn't mind Remake's ending, which was batshit insane, you won't mind this ending. I think it's a little bit better of an ending, but it does make a little bit less sense. One of those things where you just have to accept that they want you to be confused, and I don't like that as a narrative tool, especially in JRPGs, but accepting that we're supposed to be confused, I'm enjoying the confusion, the theories, the places the story may go and how it leaves things. So I think it nails the landing, and then after the ending, you were treated to one of the best post-games I've ever seen in a video game.
Wow, that is a hefty statement there.
There is so much quality of life in this that this might be the new standard for me that I expect for JRPG post-games. So it has chapter select, which I'm not a fan of usually. I like to just be able to either jump into like the ending, like how Zelda does it, where you beat it and then you're right at the end, or, whatever. But there's a specific chapter you can select where when you go there, you have access to the entire open world, all side quests, all mini games, everything. All party members and everything already unlocked. But the way that their post-game system works is you have 3 options. You can just start New Game Plus from the beginning if you want. Or you can jump in at any chapter but carry over your progress, which I think is what you would expect. Really, like have all your upgrades, have all your side quests and stuff. But it unlocks all of the time-gated content. So if you had a missable, it comes back and you can do it. If there was a party member that you didn't have yet, you will have them in that part, so it makes it a little bit easier. And then the coolest part for this is that if you want to, you can reset your quest progress. So like the main quest will always reset when you start at the beginning of a chapter, but if you want to, you can do the side quests again. Because all the side quests have like variable tiers of completion. There's like finishing the side quest, and then there's fulfilling the requirements, and then there's like the 3-star like get the full rewards thing. You can reset those as well. So you can basically just, with a fully upgraded character, go back and do all the stuff you already did, but better, and get more rewards from it. And I love that.
That does sound cool.
So yeah, I think my final verdict, game, not as good as Remake. I think it's a little bit, doesn't quite hit the highs, but the lows are significantly higher, if that makes sense. The worst parts of Remake are worse than the worst parts of Rebirth, but the best parts of Remake are better than the best parts of Rebirth. So
okay,
yeah.
All right.
So if you like Remake, I think you should check it out. And I don't know where that puts you, Jonathan, because I know you're kind of mixed on Remake.
Yeah, I mean, I have to play through it again. I'm not too interested in the whole Final Fantasy VII verse, TBH. So it's just like tough to. I'm gonna get it. I will get it. I will replay Remake, try to get a more of a critical view on it. Do a review and all that stuff, because last time I played it so long ago, probably like when it came out, and I really don't
4 years ago.
Yeah, I really don't remember too much of it, like in a critical stance, but I finished it, I played it, I finished it.
I don't know, I think maybe if you want to replay it, obviously, like, go for it. You might find something that you didn't find last time. I've heard the hard mode is quite good, which is pertinent to what we'll be talking about later.
Yeah.
But for me, FF7 Remake might be the most impactful, most memorable gaming experience I've ever had when it comes, like, critical-wise, narrative-wise, everything. So if you don't remember a lot of it and it doesn't stick with you, it just might not be for you. And, like, no one cares. I mean, people online will pretend to care, but no one really cares. So you don't have to play Rebirth just to see it through.
Yeah. But I want to, so I will.
Okay. It is a good game. Like, the combat is so fun. You can't deny, like, the combat is good, at the very least.
I mean, I liked Remake enough to, when Rebirth came out, I was like, yeah, get this, but not enough for me to be like, oh, I really wonder what's gonna happen, because I did, in fact, read about what happens online, because I was more interested in knowing what was going to happen than waiting to play it for myself.
I got you.
You know?
Yeah, especially because you know like where this one ends, and you're like, are they gonna do what are they gonna do with that part of the game?
Yeah, I was just like, come on, give it to me. Let me just see. I don't want to wait like 8,000 billion years until I finally get my PS5 up and running, and then I get Rebirth, and then I play through Remake again just to be like, oh, okay, you know.
Yeah. But game good. So that's where I'm gonna end it.
All right.
Do you want me to continue on with some reviews, or I see you have a lengthy list today? Do you want to dive into any of those?
I'm going to do a rapid fire round, so
No.
you should keep going.
If we're doing rapid fire, you got to have notes. I'm quizzing you.
I can only. Okay, well,
I'm putting you on the spot.
I'll have notes if you have questions. If there is actually a quiz, I will have answers. But if it's up to me, I'm just like, all right, these are the games I played, you know?
I'm testing your game and homework later.
All right. So should I do it? Should I go now?
Whatever if you want to, or if you want to wait till later, that's fine with me.
All right, let's just do it now. We've already have the momentum. Here's my gamer bonanza. Past like 2 or 3 weeks, I played some games. Here we go. There's 6. No, there's 5. Sorry. I got Max Payne 2. Bad. I did not like it.
How is it bad? Like, is it just more of the same, or is it actively worse?
I think it is actively worse. Which is like, I don't really know how you make monster closets bad, but it's just really boring. And the level design is super boring. I think we got a lot out of Max Payne 1. They did a lot of environments, a lot of good progression through each like act and chapter. And then Max Payne 2 kind of just doesn't really have any of that. And as well as a plot that I was kind of confused with. And there was a reveal, like, surprise villain at the end, which I played through that game twice, and I still really don't understand why the villain was the villain. And I just can't fucking figure it out for the life of me. I've read about it, I've played through it twice, and I'm just like, I really don't care. I really don't.
Sometimes evil people just evil.
Yeah, I guess so. It just felt like it was just whatever. And we've definitely reused the same, like, 5 levels throughout the entire game. So, it was all right. Not good.
Right.
Max Payne 3, jury's out. Not looking good, though. I will not lie.
Really?
Yeah. You know what it is? the silence is deafening. The problem is you haven't really played any of the open world Rockstar.
I mean, I played GTA 4 and 5.
Yeah. Well,
Is that what you mean, or?
Yeah. A big problem with the Rockstar games is that the actual action, when you finally get to an action segment, action is not as interesting as one might think. It really is a lot of just pointing and then locking on to the enemy and then holding on the right trigger until they fall over and die, and you just like sit in cover and do that. And that's for that's the kind of the experience I've had with like every Rockstar game. And that's kind of what the problem is with Max Payne 3, because they added a cover system. There's no cover system in 2 and 1, and they added a cover system in 3. Even though I read online, it was like, director so-and-so says that the cover system is merely an option. You do not have to use it. That is full of fucking shit. You really do need that cover system to play the goddamn game. Very difficult. Enemies will immediately hit scan you as soon as you walk out any room. You're just full of bullets. So and your solution, probably your best solution, is to sit behind one sturdy piece of cover and then poke your head out and hit the right trigger until the enemy dies, and then rinse and repeat. And you really don't even have to move out of cover ever, because the enemies will just come towards you or sit in the cover that they're at and just poke their heads up like occasionally. They won't advance towards you. They won't really do any like sneaky moves, comparison The Last of Us 2. Enemies are in cover, but they're moving around. They're coordinated with each other. You can't sit and just wait until they pop their heads out because they'll beat you to the punch, or one of them will stick up around you and like throw a rock at you or tackle you or some shit. There's none of that. The solution for most of the encounters can and will be sit behind a pillar and just lean out and shoot. And it was just whatever. It was just really whatever.
Damn.
And you know, the story was actually quite frustrating for most of it because they kind of made Max to sort of be out to be this like asshole, not an asshole, but like this like schlub, like jerk, and it didn't really feel fitting. I felt like the first two Max Payne games, he was like, this guy's a mess, but you know, he's a loose cannon, a little bit of camp in there. He's a loose cannon. He's gonna get down to the bottom of this, even though all that's in him is coffee and pills and alcohol. That's all that's in his tummy, but he's gonna get the job done. And now they just made him like kind of fat and old and like lose it. I felt like I was watching prototype Michael DeSanta. I was like, what is this? And then, you know, Max Payne 1 had a very personal story that directly related to Max. You know, he had a lot of say and focus on why he was in the story. 2 was the same thing because it focused on his relationship with Mona Sachs, which was like the secret agent lady from the first game. And then Max Payne 2 is like about their relationship and how they uncover this conspiracy together. And it's like, will they, won't they kind of thing. And Max Payne 3, I don't even know why he's not just like, I'm leaving. You know? I really don't really know why. He doesn't really have anything to do with anything, like personally, until like the very end. And I'm just like, whatever.
Isn't Max Payne 3 like kind of Uncharted-esque, like globetrotty? Like you're not in a city anymore?
No, you are. You're just in Brazil, which is, you know, and they made Brazil out to be a shithole. They really did. And I heard that some people weren't too happy about that. But yeah, I don't know. I think it got really good reviews. It got really good reviews, so that's why I'm kind of actually really shocked that I disliked it as much as I did. I actually think I might dislike it more than Max Payne 2, to be totally frank with you. Just because I was just bored. I was just bored and kind of frustrated.
Maybe it's kind of like how I feel about the John Wick movies, where I just watched them all in order, and that ruined the later ones for me. Maybe you needed to like take a break between them.
I kind of
did. Kind of is just the same thing.
I feel like I did take a sizable break between 2 and 3, because I was gonna launch up 3, and I said no, it's not time. So I waited until I was like, I want to play 3. This is a really good. I'm really excited to play 3. I waited until I was legitimately excited, not like I'm gonna do my homework, and I was excited. I had good aspects, and then it just kind of like it just like farted itself to death. Like, what?
Damn.
And you know what? I really think a big problem is that I didn't play the multiplayer. The multiplayer is looks really good, to be honest with you. It looks really fun. I don't know if you've ever seen gameplay of it, but the Max Payne 3 multiplayer looks kind of baller as hell. And the fact that I don't even think the servers for the Xbox version are like even open anymore, so I'm not experiencing that. And that's probably a big chunk of like the score for a lot of people is not there. Then it just kind of like, you know, there's nothing for me.
Damn.
I think I'm gonna play through it again because it is fun enough for me to shoot things and be like, okay, then moving on. And it is in the Rockstar, you know, it's in the GTA 5 engine. You could tell before GTA 5 came out. It was almost like a tech demo for the GTA 5. Because
is that true? Because didn't like GTA 5's engine is really, really advanced for when it came out.
Yeah, it's so clear that maybe it's different engines, but they so clearly use so much of the Max Payne 3 engine on GTA 5. I'm almost 100% positive that it is the same exact engine. You just look at gameplay of it, it feels like a mod of GTA 5. If you're very familiar with GTA 5, then playing Max Payne 3, it's like kind of bizarre in a way. You feel like you're playing some modded version of GTA 5. I think you should just look at some gameplay. Look at like the first level of gameplay, and you'll like see it immediately. It even has like the Euphoria ragdolls and everything. It's good. It's good stuff, you know. that that stuff is good. But
Yeah.
all right,
What else you play?
I got the 3 more. Shovel Knight, amazing. I don't think I have to say anything about Shovel Knight.
What, did you finish all the other campaigns?
I did. I finished all 4.
Cool.
And they're good. They're very good. 2 of them, a little samey. It kind of get like grates on you a little bit. But I've also played the game like probably around 8 times throughout its release. So I'm not too surprised that I'm like, oh, I got to get through Spectre of Torment again. But then it ends with King of Cards, and King of Cards is phenomenal. So, yep, worth the price of admission alone. I would suggest Shovel Knight to anybody. Doom is the original from '93. Great game. Doom 2.
Great game.
Doom 2. I liked less than Doom 1, which is like, huh? I never would have thought that, but yeah, Doom 2 is a little bit of a mess, but it's
right,
good
though.
enough. Yeah, it's good. But
If only the shotgun from Doom 2 was in Doom 1, it might be a perfect video game.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That would just ruin the entire balance because I would never have to use any other weapon. If I had the super shotgun, I'd never have to use any other weapon. But yeah, I don't know. That's it for my rapid fire round. You have any closing questions before we move on?
You gonna play Doom 64 next?
Oh yes, I am. I sure am. And you know what? I played the first 2 levels or something like that just to like dip my little toes in. It's a weird like
it's weird.
Trippy. It's very trippy. It's almost like I'm playing Quake in a way. I really like Quake. I actually really didn't think because I love 2016 Doom. And I like Doom Eternal. So I thought I was going to go back to these ones and be like, "Oh yeah, like put my like get me on the boomer juice and hook me up and shit like that." But after playing Quake, I'm just thinking to myself, damn, Quake is like kind of better. Quake is kind of way better actually than the original Dooms.
I really gotta check out Quake because I love Doom and Doom 2.
I think when you first start playing Quake, you're gonna fucking hate it, and then something's gonna click, and you're gonna go, okay, I'm in it. Because I actually did not like Quake too much when I first played through it, but now I'm a Quakeaholic. I am a Quaker, dare I say? I sure am.
I'm going to talk about a game series that I didn't like at first as well, but now I'm sold on, which is Yakuza.
Ooh, I love me some Yakuza.
So which ones have you played?
I played 0. I played Judgment. I love Yakuza. do not ask a Yakuza fan what their favorite game is. It's 0, and that's it.
Yakuza's biggest fan finally plays the franchise for the first time.
Yeah. I do have all the Yakuza games, and I follow it very deeply. I just haven't made the plunge into actually playing the rest of them, but it has somehow housed itself into a very special place in my heart without playing majority of them. So I really, really do like them, but I actually have to play them for myself.
Okay, because I couldn't remember if you had played them or not, and when I was playing it, constantly Sam was asking me, like, has Jonathan played these games? He seems like he would really like these games. I'm like, no, I don't think he's played them yet. It's like, this is the most Jonathan game of all time.
Really? Really? The Yakuza is the most Jonathan game of all time?
So I was playing Yakuza Kiwami, the remake of the first one, and I do think there's a lot of very, very Jonathan-coded bits of comedy and, like, drama as well. So I do think I know, like, 0 is pretty much regarded as the best one, if not until, like, 7 and 8. But I do think Kiwami has a lot of really good shit in it that I wish I saw more people talk about.
Yeah, I agree. I do like Yakuza for what it does, and just completely how batshit corny it is. Like it somehow does that soap opera thing, where I am a sucker for a soap opera, because soap operas kind of do this thing where like they're cheesy and they know they're being cheesy, but they can somehow hook their nails into you and get you hooked. That's kind of what all the Yakuza games do, and I really fuck with that. And also they have all that cheesy, absurd shit, like there's so much silly shit going on in every Yakuza game. Fish cannon. In Yakuza 0, there's a really funny minigame where you can go to, you can call sex hotlines. You go to this, like, establishment that has booths where you call sex hotlines, and it's a whole minigame where you're chatting up this hostess like on the sex hotline or something like that, and you're imagining like what she looks like through the tears, something like that, and it's just so corny. There's hearts and stuff everywhere, and silly graphics and everything. It really gets you into it. And I think there's the internet cafe in Kiwami. Do you know?
If there is one, I didn't find it. There's so many mini games. I played most of them, but not all of them.
Yeah, in one of the Yakuza games, there's an internet cafe where they get real like actresses, real Japanese like pornographic actresses to do these like softcore scenes where they're talking to a chat. And they don't do anything crazy, I don't think. It's just like, I think the worst is them in like a swimsuit or some shit like that, showing booby. But the mini game is like them talking to you in like a live stream chat, and you like in the little corner of the screen, Kiryu is typing, like looking at the keys, typing like boobs, like in all caps. That's the mini game. So shit like that is just hilarious. I'm sorry, I just hijacked your segment.
No, because I really want to know what your history with Yakuza was, because I feel like you talk about it all the time, but I've never heard you be like, yeah, in this one this happens, or like I like this of this one. I've only heard you like usually this stupid clip of this thing that happened, or like soap opera ass acting.
Yeah, so. The clips really, the silliness really kind of not predates, but almost overtakes the presence of the actual games. I see Yakuza shit everywhere I go.
Sure, I do too. Fun. I see it on social media every single day, and honestly, that's one of the reasons I decided to play it. I do like the silliness, but like I knew there was more to it, and I'm glad that I saw it through because there was way more to it. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that I didn't like this franchise at first is because I had tried to play Yakuza 0 and Kiwami probably about a year ago. I started Kiwami, and I didn't really dig it at first, which I still really don't dig the beginning of this game. It's really bad for some reason. Mm-hmm. But then I was like, you know what? Let me look it up. I looked it up, and people were like, oh, you should play 0 first. That's like the best one, and it's a prequel, so you don't need to know anything. I was like, okay, cool. So I played 0, and I got like maybe 5 hours into it, and then I fell off. I was like, I don't know. I can't get into this. But this time, I was like, I want to stick it through, because I really want to play 7, because I know I would love 7. But I'm like, I know I don't need to play these other ones, but they're all on Game Pass. I got nothing going on. I'm sick. I don't have a job. Let me just jump in. And so I jumped in, and so the beginning of this game is set in the 90s. And you literally are just running around the city doing nothing. All the objectives are like, talk to this guy. Go get money from the ATM. Someone stole your wallet. Go hunt down the guy that stole your wallet. Go back to the bar. And you're not doing anything. No combat, no mini games, barely any dialogue. You're like, what the fuck is this game?
Mm-hmm. Like Shenmue.
But and then you get to the first like major mission, and then it's a time skip into the 2000s, and from then on it was just constant drama, action, crazy mini games. Like I loved so much of it. I think the best part for me, so like people don't know, because it's like it's easy to see clips and not really know what the game's about. You're in the Yakuza, big surprise, and it's a brawler. So it's in like an old school beat 'em up, but like they don't really make 3D brawlers anymore, except for Yakuza, and even that's like not all of them are that anymore. So it was kind of refreshing. It's like it is PS2 era, right? Like that's where this one was from. It's a remake of that one.
Yeah.
But it's obviously very modernized, and it took me back to playing a lot of those like either licensed or like weird AA 3D brawlers on the PS2, and I really was nostalgic for it. But they amp it up so impossibly high with skill trees and combos and like contextual actions. I haven't looked a lot about the original Yakuza, but from what I understand, they pretty much just lifted the combat from 0 and put it into this one.
I believe
so. You have like the 3 different stances you can do, like the heavy, the light, and the medium. Mm-hmm. And the progression through all of those is really good. So like at the beginning, you're not getting any XP. So it really encourages you to learn your movesets while you're fighting all these just thugs on the street. Mm-hmm. But the further in you get, you start getting like 500 levels for beating one boss, and then but the skills cost like 100. So like the good skills cost a lot. So you really have to pick a path that you want to choose and like learn that skill before you move on to the next one. And that really, I really like the way that they do progression in this, because it was like Devil May Cry, how you can kind of like unlock the combos as you go, so you can pick which stance you want and stick with it. But you were always unlocking something and learning it. It was just fantastic.
Right. Yeah.
Then the music, I was caught off guard with how much I really like the music. People always show their like Spotify Wrapped, and it's always Yakuza 6. I'm like, okay, but this one, it's got some tracks, and I assume they're all new arrangements of old tracks. But like, there's specifically this one song that plays when you're in like missions where you're just running through. There's no breaks, just fighting. That song is stuck in my head to this day. It's so good.
Can you play it right now?
Yeah, playing it right now. But no, it's just like all the music sets the tone perfectly. And then none of the mini games that I played were bad. I literally played poker and blackjack in this game for like 3 hours straight.
Did you not play Mahjong?
I like know the rules, kind of. So I played for like 20 minutes and I was like, you know what? Maybe not right now, and then I'll come back to it. I never did, but maybe I will in another one.
Dude, I 100%ed Judgment, which included I had to play Mahjong and win a couple of matches, and that was probably the hardest part of the entire game. And I played that game on hard mode too, because it was kind of like a bit too easy, kind of boring. So I put it on hard mode just to be like, all right, I'm fighting some baddies. And even then, I was like, fuck, I gotta go play Mahjong.
Yeah, I did that with Shogi, which I think is just chess, but I think it has some different rules, and there was no tutorial. And I really wanted to get this side quest done, so I was like, how do I play Shogi?
Yeah.
And I had to look it up on YouTube.
You can buy cheat items, which are convenient.
Yeah. There was like a cigarette you could smoke that would make people play their hand different in Texas Hold'em, and I was like, that's silly. All the people always talk about the side quests in Yakuza being great. They were like, there was 75 of them. Very few of them I was bored by. Most of them I was like, this is so fun. This is awesome. One for you. So there was the slot cars in Zero, right?
Yeah.
Did you engage with that much? Like, did you do the side quests and stuff?
I did not. I was, little baby Jonathan didn't understand what was going on. I just wanted to punch dudes.
So in Kiwami, they added the, what's it called, Pocket Circuit? They added that in there.
Yeah.
And there's this really long running side quest where you meet up with all of the people you played against in Zero.
Yes.
And now they're adults.
And they're like
and
old.
And it was really fun to see all that. So yeah, a lot of these side quests are really good. The only things I really want to ding this game is that it's aged, but it is a PS2 game. They gave it a pretty substantial glow up. Like, the graphics are actually pretty good. Seeing pores on anime characters' faces always makes me feel a bit odd, though. But the thing is, like, the gameplay, like, some of it you can see, like, this is old game design. So like I was talking about the beginning where you're just not doing much. Mm-hmm. A lot of the quests, like main quests in this game, are like, why are we doing this right now? Like, I get it, it builds character, but like, I don't feel the need to feed this dog when I could be fighting someone, and it's not optional, and it's not really that heartfelt. Like, I'm just doing this to do it, and I'm like, what is... That happens like 5 or 6 times through all the main quests. And then as much as I love the characters and like the actual like crime soap opera story they were building, there's so much filler. It's so much filler. I was blown away with how much just does not matter to the overall plot, and I hope they tighten that up as it goes on. I'm gonna keep playing them. I don't know if they do or don't, but I do hope that we get more like streamlined narrative going forward.
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't think Yakuza 1 is the most fun Yakuza game to people. I think the later ones. I think it's like a upward graph, and then Yakuza. Is it 3 or 4? I think it's 3 is the one that's like kind of like ooh.
So a lot of people say to start with Zero because it's like, you know, the best kind of. But I also saw a lot of people, and this is kind of where I'm at, that I agreed with what they were saying, is like, if you start with 0 and then go to 1, you're setting yourself up to not like 1, because it's like it is a remake of an old game that's worse than 0. So if you just play them in release order, like with the remakes, it gets a little complicated. That's why I'm not sure if I'm actually going to play 3, 4, and 5. But it's like if you play 1 and 2, you get that basis for where the narrative is, and then you get to go back and play 0, which has better gameplay. So that's where I'm going.
I guess that's true.
And then like 7 just looks fantastic.
I wouldn't even start with 0. I would start with Judgment, and I'm not even kidding about that.
Yeah, I do want to play Judgment, but
yeah.
I'm more curious about like how it fits in and if it is actually that similar or not.
Oh, it has nothing to do with Yakuza. Like, there's not even like, I don't think there's even really references.
I don't really mean story-wise. I just mean like, is it really that similar to Yakuza?
Yes.
It's not like a different kind of game?
No. It is a Yakuza game through and through. You would just play as a different character, and there's new gimmicks, like detective nonsense. And that's kind of it. It is a Yakuza game, 100%. Same thing with Fist of the North Star, Lost Paradise. It is a 100% Yakuza game, except you are Kenshiro, and you blow people the fuck up. So
yeah, and then what's it, Ishin? Like a Dragon Ishin?
Yeah, Ishin. I don't know if I'm ever. I don't know if I'm gonna pick those ones up. Honestly, there's so many Yakuza games, and Ishin looks fine, but I don't know.
Yeah, and then so I'm excited to, like, I really did like 1. Like, for all the things I have that I nitpick, not much. Like, I enjoyed my time with it through and through for almost the entire thing. Even the filler, I was like, I don't like this, but I'm willing to put up with this enough to get back to the good stuff because I like the good stuff so much. So I'm really excited to keep playing them.
Okay, cool.
And then quickly, I'll move through this one a little bit. I just felt like I wanted to shout this out because if I don't say it now, I'm probably not going to get another chance to talk about it on the podcast. So I watched a documentary this morning called Earthbound USA, and it's a fan gamer documentary about starmen.net. So are you familiar with starmen.net?
Vaguely, yeah.
So it goes through the story of like, so it's about starmen.net is a fan forum for Earthbound, the SNES game that I love. And it's kind of how I found out about Earthbound. Like, I found out about it through a friend, but whenever you look up Earthbound and start doing research online, this starmen.net resource inevitably comes up. And while it's not like used that much anymore today because forums are kind of a thing in the past, it has this like omnipresence in the Earthbound community. Like, eventually you're going to come upon someone talking about what happened in starmen.net, which was basically just sharing fan art and theories and all that, but they're the ones responsible for like the big petitions to get Mother 3 localized and to release Earthbound 64 and stuff like that made the news like a while back.
Yeah.
And this is a documentary basically following the 2 guys that created the site and how much they love Earthbound, how they were able to keep this cult following going from the 90s to the 2000s all the way up until today. And it was so good. Like, it's an amateur documentary, and it does have some flaws, but nothing that I could do better. I mean, we made documentaries, and I think this is leagues better than that. But from what I like learned in my schooling and everything about documentaries, it's like this hits all the right points. This is a competent video presentation that's about an hour and 20 minutes, I think, that just starts at the beginning with the release of Earthbound and ends in the modern day, and just telling the whole story. It has these little like skit segments where it's people at Nintendo reacting to the website, and they're like these people in suits, but it's filmed like a 90s commercial, so they like pick up the phone and someone starts screaming through the phone, and then wind blows their hair back and stuff. Like, it's really silly and goofy, and I love it. And the only thing I have to say that I didn't like about this is that it pretty much, like, a documentary is just to tell you something, but I think good documentaries have like a message of like, and this is like, you could do this, you could form a community and get all these people together around something that you love. But they didn't really harp on that. They pretty much were just like, yeah, we met a lot of friends through the site, and now the site's irrelevant because of Twitter. So yeah, that's where I am. And that's literally how it ends. It ends with them saying, yeah, no one uses the site anymore because social media exists, and I didn't really see that coming. And then it hard cuts to an interview with the creator of Earthbound, and they don't really talk about anything important. They're just like, I just love your work, man, and that's like the whole interview. And I was like, this is a weird way to end this, but it's just so nostalgic. If you have any love for Earthbound, or if you're curious about how like the cult following was able to keep up all those years, I think it's a really good watch.
Okay, I like that. I like a fair and consistent review right there.
Now, let's move into our topic of the show.
Yes, please.
Game difficulty. So there's a lot of ways we could take this. I think primarily what I think is important is like, we're just going to be talking about how we like to play our games. I don't think we're going to be claiming that this is how games need to be made and this genre needs to be done this way because we're game designers and we have all this knowledge. I think it would be best if everyone is just chill out. It's just like, you can play your games however you want. That's how this all comes down to it. If you want to play your game on easy mode, play your game on easy mode. I don't fucking care how you play your games. This is how we play our games. So,
point
Jonathan.
taken. However, I don't like the way some people live their lives, and it has to be a problem.
Oh, man. It'd be like, so, this game came out with 6 difficulty modes, one of which is actually for accessible, like disabled people, so it has like a motion sickness accessibility. Do we really need that? No, like,
no, take it out, take it out.
Or like, okay, let's sidebar related to this. I've been playing RE4 Remake right now.
Okay.
And I saw so much discourse online about people pissed off about the auto sort inventory feature. And that's how I feel about this. Just don't use it. You don't have to get mad that it's there. Dude, just don't use it.
Pokemon XP share all over again.
Yeah, just don't use it.
Just don't turn it on. There's a button that says turn it off. turn it off.
That's kind of how I'm going to be going into this conversation, is like, just do whatever you want. Who cares how other people play their games? But with all that out of the way, we talk about the different types of difficulty first. Yeah, I want you to start off, Jonathan.
Yes. Yeah. I got this. This. Take a load off. So I'll do it real quick. Adjustable is games that you usually can pick the difficulty right out the gate. This is probably the most traditional way that games operate. You start the game easy, medium, hard, and that's probably the most basic options that you get. I can think of most story-based like action video games sort of have this option. I really can't think of Halo, Rookie, Recruit. Then the other two, Dead Space, any shooter has those adjustable difficulties, and then they'll try to like fuck around a bit, and they'll have like, now there's like story mode, which is like the super super easy mode, and then there's other options like Grounded or Crushing from Last of Us, which is like the super challenge. And, sometimes games will do medium and then hard and then very hard and then the nightmare difficulty. So there's a lot of options, but adjustable is that where you choose what the difficulty is going in. Static is just the game is one difficulty. You start the game, no option. You just play the game. And the game is designed in one way and you're going to like it. And that's how it is. Biggest examples, Dark Souls, Mario Brothers. Now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, Mario.
Not the new Marios actually do some stuff.
New Marios, yes. But most of the older ones do not have that. You play the game as intended, and that's the end of it. Zeldas even do that. Not the new ones. Really, adjustable difficulty, like that, like where you get like easier options, is more of like a new thing. So. I think if you go like 2015 and before, a lot of games just have static difficulty and that's it. Like especially Nintendo games. And then dynamic difficulty is games that adjust the difficulty as you go through, depending on a variety of factors. Biggest example is probably some of the Resident Evil games. You're doing really well. You're saving all your ammo. You have a lot of health items. The game will give you less. And the game might also make the enemies a bit more challenging just to offset how well you're doing. And then if you're doing really piss poor, the game will cut you a break, give you some items, make it a bit easier. But that's just one example of dynamic, and that's the 3. There you go.
All right. You want to just like, instead of us talking about each one individually, you want to just go like adjustable, static, dynamic, and we'll both talk about each one as we go?
Sure.
All right. Why don't you start us off? Whichever one you feel like you want to talk about first.
So, honestly, out of the 3, I do think my favorite, I just want to talk about my favorite first. I do think my favorite is static. Because adjustable difficulty, I think, it's really common, but it can really be hit or miss. Whenever I play a game with adjustable difficulty, I usually play it on the medium difficulty, because that, I feel like, is the intended way to play the game, where most of the design is put towards that balanced quote-unquote experience, unless the developers say, this is the definitive blank experience, play on this mode, I'm gonna pick like the medium difficulty pretty much. Right? Because it's just like that was where they designed the game. And I do think a lot of the adjustable difficulties in some games can sort of be like an illusion of choice, where it really doesn't matter as much as you think it will, or it matters in like shitty ways where it's like, oh, I'm really experienced in this game, I want to kind of play it a bit harder. So I put it to the higher difficulty, and it isn't really, it is harder, but not in like a fun way. It's like, okay, we made the enemies take a lot more damage, and we made you weaker, and then we made them do a lot more damage, and pretty much the game is the same, but you just have to put more time into shooting or punching the enemies in the skull. And it's like, I really don't like that. I feel it comes off as lazy. It doesn't really feel worth it to play through the games in higher difficulties when they do that, because it just feels a little bit shooed in, kind of. So I like it when games don't even have that. Like if it's shitty, I'd rather not even have it at all. I'd rather just have the one difficulty, because it really removes a lot of that illusion, and kind of that anxiety when you have to choose the difficulty. Be like, oh, am I gonna enjoy the game on this difficulty? Am I gonna do? There's no question. It's like, this is how the game was designed, and they put all their eggs into designing this difficulty, where this one difficulty was in mind, so they designed it around that, and that's it. And I think that usually yields better results design-wise when they kind of just design it after one thing, unless they go through significant efforts to make it more interesting, make enemies like do different shit or have different tactics in harder modes. Example, Last of Us. The enemies act very, very different in Grounded compared to Easy, where they're really, really stupid. I like that. I like when games do that. But when you give me the same game, but you just make me have a fourth of the health, I don't really like that much. I kind of like it. I would rather, in adjustable difficulty, I would prefer if games just up the damage the enemies do to me. I would be completely fine with that. If it was like, okay, we kept all the enemy health the same, we kept your health the same, they just do a shit ton more damage. I would even prefer that. You know, just like whatever, you know. But adjustable difficulty also has some funky shit, because they will do, you know, like the super ultra nightmare mode or something, and that's always really fun. But again, it can just be a distraction if they don't do it well enough. So I've always liked static difficulty. I think a lot of like my favorite games have that design choice of just static difficulty. And I think it makes sense, because they just have to think about that difficulty and think about making that game good and accessible to everybody, but still like challenging or accessible. They have to really think with their heads instead of being like, okay, we'll just make it easy. We'll just put an easy mode in if it's too hard, because we just don't want to go through and make the design better, you know? Yeah, but that's kind of how I feel. I do like static difficulty most of all. Dynamic, I'm a little iffy on. I really don't like the name. I don't like the way it works on paper. I know, I don't like it when if I know that the game has a dynamic difficulty, I think that kind of messes with me, because it's like, if I'm doing poorly, I know the game is going to toss me a bone, sort of. So I'm not too worried. But then if I'm doing too well, I know the game is going to punish me. So I'm kind of like, do I want to do well? It's going to bite me in the ass. It feels counterintuitive in a way. I know when you're playing the games, it doesn't feel like that. But if a game has a dynamic difficulty, I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
These are all insane takes. I
That's crazy.
gotta tell you that. I was trying to keep up and think about everything you said because I don't know how to respond. These are all incredibly insane takes.
Disagree?
I would hope so.
No,
okay.
squiggly.
Static difficulty is not good. Like, why would you not want to have the option if you need it to change it to be harder or easier?
Well, if I need it, because I think a game can provide accessible options in a difficulty without making it a separate mode. I think, what is something I'm thinking of? This is probably a shitty example. No, this is a perfect example. I was going to say the Dark Souls Drake Sword, but I'm actually going to say the Wii Punch-Out. The Wii Punch-Out has one difficulty, but once you lose a certain number of times, the game gives you tools that you can activate on your own to make it easier. You can get the headpiece, which significantly reduces the damage that you take. You get the headgear, right? And I like that. The game isn't like, do you want to change the difficulty to like baby mode, which is like, not baby mode, but do you want to like lower the difficulty, or do you want to just put on this hat? Like the design is all the same and everything's still the same, but you have this hat on that reduces damage. I like when games do that. I like when games give you the option. I think I would rather have games have like the beginner armor. Like take this armor and just keep it in your chest, like your item chest, and just put it on when you need it, right? Rather than starting from the beginning, I'm going to play on easy mode. I prefer having the option while I'm in the middle of the game rather than making it a completely different mode.
That's fair. But not every, like, that's not conducive to every kind of game, though.
No, it isn't. But I'm just saying that's what I prefer.
Yeah.
Overall.
Like, I'm thinking about Luigi's Mansion. That game has no difficulty options, right?
Yes.
Like, when I was younger, that game was too hard for me. And that is a kid's game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I was, I forget when I played that originally. I had to be like 10. I couldn't finish it. I had to get a guide. Like, I bought a physical guidebook, and I had my dad, like, sitting there with me. And anytime I would, like, die to a boss too many times, I'd be like, you do it. And then he was able to do it. And
that's
like,
crazy. My dad could never.
I mean, I was a kid, so I guess that's kind of a straw man argument. But, like, I don't understand how you think that a game is inherently designed worse because it has difficulty options.
No. I didn't say. Hold on. Wait. Relax.
Okay, well, you said it was designed better because it doesn't have them.
I have found that games that have static difficulty can be designed better. In my personal opinion, I have my favorite games usually don't have dynamic difficulty. And that they just have static difficulty, and they kind of just designed it around this like one thing, and they can give you easier options, but it really is just like this one mode. But it's not that it's inherently. I don't think games are inherently bad for having the dynamic difficulty, because almost every game has dynamic difficulty, right? So I don't think that is true.
I mean, like,
I just think that some developers fuck up the dynamic difficulty. When there's static difficulty, there's nothing to fuck up, because if you fuck it up, then it's just a bad game.
Well, that's the thing is, like, the adjustable difficulty, I do agree a lot of developers fuck it up.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I know you specifically have a higher tolerance for, like, game frustration and difficulty, and you're also better at games than the average person.
I don't know if that's true.
I think it is, because I for the last probably like 3 or 4 years, until this year, I was playing games on easy, because I was like, I just can't finish games anymore, because I get stuck, and then my mind is like, well, I'm not having fun anymore, so let me just try something else, and then I get distracted. Now, lately, I've been getting more into, like, some more challenging situations, so I've been playing games harder, but, like, that easy mode is what let me experience games like The Last of Us 2, and I eventually replayed it on normal, and actually, I think I tried a little bit on Grounded. I'm not doing that shit. But games like Doom 2016, I was not going to get through that game unless whenever it was a challenging level, if I could drop it down to easy, because I don't have the tolerance for losing over and over again to the same enemies, and not like, I understand that that's a skill issue, but also I enjoyed the game because I was able to change it. So who cares if it's a skill issue?
Right. I don't. Yeah. Preface. There's nothing wrong if you have a skill issue. There's nothing wrong with that at all. This is just how I have seen design, and it's really because I have a bone to pick whenever I play through games over and over and over again, and I'm like, I want an extra challenge. Let's see what else this game got, and game got shit, you know. And you just I can't even remember the like. I'm trying to think of a game that I played recently. I was like, I'm gonna play it on hard mode, and it was just wasn't fun. It was miserable. But then it's almost like excused because you played it on hard mode, so you should be miserable and it should not be fun. It's like, no. I didn't sign up for cheap hard mode where enemies just take 8,000 rounds. I signed up for hard mode. I have a significant challenge. This is just absurdity, you know? I just have a bone to pick with design choices like that. But sometimes they just make those decisions in the non-adjustable difficulty, and then you're really fucked.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm also, like, we're on the same side that I think that if you're gonna fuck it up, just don't do it at all. Because
Yeah.
I'm looking at a lot of first-person shooter campaigns. So I've always felt this. In every Halo we've played, and in every Call of Duty I've played, which is a lot of them, and in every, like, Battlefield I've played that had a single player, the normal difficulty is too easy and the hard mode is just bad. So like I don't like heroic. I think it's too hard. I'm going to be honest. But I think that the regular difficulty in Halo is far too easy.
You should have told me that before we went through most of the campaigns in Heroic.
But I'm enjoying it because it's co-op. So like I'm able to handle it. I'm able to handle it in co-op, but I do die a lot more than you do. And that's because I really do think that the enemies do too much damage in the way that they throw grenades a lot and do all, like, are able to hit me from insane angles in heroic that they aren't in normal. But then normal mode in Halo, I've never had fun playing because it's just too easy.
Yeah, it's too easy. So there's such a big divide. So it's like, do you want to play the mode that puts you to sleep, or do you want to play the mode that kind of infuriates you? It's like one gets your blood pumping, the other puts you to sleep. Like, kind of pick your poison type of thing, you know? And I think Halo is actually a really good example of adjustable difficulty being can be fucky, because they have legendary mode, which is just fucked up. It's just, have you tried playing a Halo campaign on legendary?
Oh, yeah.
That's not fun. Yeah. But like, everyone is, okay, I'm being facetious right now, but everyone's convinced that Halo legendary is fun. It's not fun. It's not fun.
Everyone's convinced that they had a good time spending 24 hours straight trying to finish the lasso in Halo 4.
Yeah, like, that was not a fun time. That was absurd. I know if you did have a fun time, that's awesome. Go to the doctor and get diagnosed for psychopathy. but good for you as well. But some people do that. Some people are like, I love this. I love suffering. And, you know, I am like that. I like a challenge. I do like, and you know this about me, I like a hefty challenge. Most of the time, I'm like, give me something that makes me go, woof. Glad I got out of that one, right? But sometimes I'm like, fuck, man, I don't even know how you people do this shit. I played through Neo. I was like, what the fuck were they thinking? What was going on here, dude? I'll talk about Neo later, but
I mean, I like a challenge as well. I mean, I've played the only, like, FromSoft games I haven't played now are Sekiro. Like, I've played all the other ones. I haven't finished Dark Souls 3 yet, but, like, I like those games.
Yeah.
I like those games a lot, and they don't have difficulty options.
Mm-hmm.
And I get where I get the sense of I'm supposed to overcome this challenge, and that's where the fun comes from. And I respect that decision, and that's why I decided to stick it through. But I'm thinking of other, like, friends of mine that have played these games and immediately fell off, like in Bloodborne, fell off before they even beat Father Gascoigne, because it's just too hard for them, and they aren't in that mindset to put up with the challenge, and now they're missing out on this fantastic, not only narrative experience, but, you know, level design. And it could be, if, let's say, Bloodborne, for example, the enemies, there was a mode where the enemies just did less damage to you. I have complete faith that my friends would be able to get through that game and enjoy every aspect of it as much as I do, but they just can't because there's no option for them. And we're going to talk about that like specific example later, but I'm thinking for games like these first-person shooter campaigns, or even JRPGs, like the Xenoblade games, their difficulty options are adjustable, and that's what lets people get through them nowadays.
Yeah.
Back in the day, those options didn't exist. You play old school JRPG, you get to that boss that's just like immediately one-hit kills you unless you have every single thing set up right. That's why people don't go back and play those games if they didn't play them when they came out. I like to play my games in a way where I'm challenged, but not constantly repeating the same thing over and over again. And if I don't have that option, it drives it makes me hate the game in a way that is not fair to the game.
See, this is where our differences are really important, because this is where we're actually complete opposites. Because I feel like usually we have. What do you? Oh yeah, no. I feel like usually we have a middle ground, sort of. Like we're kind of both little centrists. I love sitting on the fence, but I feel like this is where we're like, I like the challenge. I am indifferent to the challenge, sort of thing.
I like the challenge, but I want to. Okay, let me put this game out there. Celeste, one of the hardest games I've ever played. I had no problem getting through it.
Interesting.
Because of all of the difficulty options that they have.
Oh, I didn't even know they had that.
Oh yeah, they have a ton of accessibility options of like, this level is kicking my ass. Let me just slow down time so I can get the jump better. Or let me increase my jump height, I believe is one of them. It's been a while since I played it, but there's a lot of options to make those levels easier. That game is insanely hard. But as much as I died, it never felt frustrating. But a game like, let me think. What's like a good example of a game with static difficulty that I might have played? Because I tend not to play them.
Elden Ring?
I did like Elden Ring though, but Elden Ring's pretty easy. Like, all things considered, that's a pretty middle of the road game, especially for the kind of game it is.
I'm so shocked to hear you say that, because that game kicked my fucking dick through my head.
There are hard parts as well, but a lot of them are optional.
That is true.
Okay.
I couldn't even beat Melania.
That was a bit of a challenge for me.
Yeah. I can't beat her. I can't do it. I'm like, and I'm the guy who's like, I'm gonna play through this on Turbo, and I couldn't fucking do it.
Either way, I'm thinking about a lot of games that like I've played in the past that have no difficulty options that I've fallen off because it's like that one boss stuck me for too long, or that one, and I've complained about this on the podcast. The biggest pet peeve in anything in gaming for me is when I'm fighting a boss. And there's a long time between dying and fighting the boss again. And if it has static difficulty and that, I'm out. I'm sorry. I'm not coming back to the game. If it has an easy mode, let me put it on easy mode just to get to the boss, maybe. Try it a couple more times on normal mode. If I still keep dying, I'm just going to put it on easy. Get through it. I can enjoy the rest of that game for whatever it has to offer. No qualms. Put it back on normal mode right after the boss. I'm perfectly fine. Don't have any guilt on my conscience. In fact, a really good example of this, my favorite so far, I was playing Yakuza Kiwami. And there's that game is really funky where if you don't have any health items, you're basically fucked in any of the boss fights.
It's so tough.
And I forgot to buy health items. So I died to this boss 3 times, and it was like, hey, do you want to put this in temporary easy mode? And I was like, that sounds interesting. So I put it in what they called temporary easy mode, beat the boss, and then as soon as I beat the boss, it automatically put me back on the difficulty I was at, and I loved that option. And I did not... I never had to use it again, I only had to use it the one time, but if I sat there on normal, if that was just one difficulty kind of game, and I sat there and had to fight that boss 20 times, 30 times, before I was able to move on, I would have stopped playing the game. I'm sorry.
This is where... In much more important ways, you are stronger than me, because I would not do that. I would just suffer, and I would just suffer, and I would let that hurt my feelings. I really would. I really fucking would. Because you know what? This is probably, I would say, negative trait that a gamer could have is the pride and the stubbornness to not do that. Because gaming, because this is all I have. If I can't do it well, that'll crush me. So I would never do that. And you know what? That might make me fucking hate something in ways that you would be like, oh, I just set it to easy, and then I moved on with my life. It's like, no, I don't do that. I can't.
I will say, in games where there's a trophy to beat the game on specific difficulties, then I feel that shame. And that I wish developers wouldn't do that.
What about,
maybe have one for hard mode.
Yeah. What about when a game pokes fun at you picking the easy mode?
Okay.
Like when Wolfenstein, when it's like they put him in a binky and a baby bib, and you're like, no.
I played Wolfenstein: The Old Blood on baby binky bonnet mode. No questions asked. I was perfectly fine playing that game on baby bonnet mode, and it gave me a good chuckle. I was like, haha, game. Or like Doom, where what's it called? Like, hurt me, or what's it? Like, call you daddy or something.
I'm too young to die. In Doom, I'm too young to die, and in Doom, it's no. In Wolfenstein, it's can I play daddy?
Yeah. I had no qualms. I thought that was so funny, especially in what is it? South Park, the fractured butthole.
Yeah.
Where the difficulty is your race, and like that, they made a joke out of it. Like, I love when games are cheeky with it, in any way possible. Like, I love
that. Okay, see, I may be able to beat games on higher difficulties, but you're a stronger man.
And you know the other thing, when you go in the beginning of the game and it's like, it's weird that games started doing this because they're always wrong. It's never accurate. Where it's like, normal. We recommend playing this game if you're familiar with action games. Hard. We recommend playing this game if you've played the previous entry in the series. Easy. We recommend this game for people who have never played a video game before.
Yeah, that's so
like,
funny.
what the fuck?
Go.
Yeah, you go for it.
No, you finish what you were saying. You were in the middle.
I was in RE4 Remake. I think it's like if you've played the original RE4, you should play on Nightmare mode. I'm like, that is not accurate. This is a different game.
Yeah, it's like, first of all, don't tell me what I should pick, because then you're gonna make me second guess myself, and I'm gonna trust you. And I know for a fact that the developer who played the game like 90 times because it was his goddamn job is better at the game than me. Additionally, I fucking hate it when games do not give you the information of what the difficulty is. Like, if you're gonna, easy, normal, hard, ultra hard, fine. That's fine. But when you start giving me information like that doesn't actually give me any information. That just confuses me. I like it when games have a tangible list of exactly what is different. And you know what games do that? None of them! No games do that.
Some
I have to
of
look
them
them
do.
up online.
Some of them do.
I can't think of a single one off the top of my head. Maybe
Final
Last
Fantasy
of Us
7
2.
Rebirth does.
Okay, there you go. That's one. You know what 2024, and now we're finally getting that shit. I had to look up on game wikis like difficulty just to get like actual tangible results on what the difficulties mean before I start playing the goddamn game. I was playing Max Payne 1 or Max Payne 2, I don't really remember. Doesn't tell you what the difficulties are. They just have names for the difficulties, but it's not easy, medium, hard. It's like hard boiled, loose cannon, detective. It's like, what's the difference? What's the fucking difference? You can put these in any order and I wouldn't know. The only thing I have to go on is that the top is easiest and the bottom is hardest. That's all I have. If you're gonna do that, don't do it.
I will come to your side when it comes to story mode, though. I think the inclusion of story mode in recent games, like, I'm all for accessibility options. If you want to give me a toggle of like, I just won't get a game over in this game ever, in case someone has trouble, using the controller and keeping up with the fast-paced nature of the game or whatever, that's fine. But I think having a mode where you start from the very beginning with like, it is impossible for me to die, I kill everything in one hit, and I can't change the difficulty to normal after that if I decide it's too easy for me. Like, what are we doing with that? PlayStation does that with all their games now. I'm like, what is this weird option?
It's for Grandpa. Like, I played God of War when it came out. I was like, okay, Grandpa, here's the new one.
Can I talk about dynamic difficulty, though?
Yeah, sure.
Dynamic difficulty is... Yeah, you're right. Dynamic difficulty is my favorite of the three that we've talked about. I don't think a lot of games do it, and less games than that do it well. But when they do it well, I'm like, this is the best of both worlds. And this is weird that I'm bringing up the last two games that I've played in this discussion, but Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has the best dynamic difficulty I've ever seen. And so it's actually their hard mode. Like, they have a hard mode that you can unlock for New Game Plus, but it's designed in a way that, like, they know you're going to have everything unlocked already, so you couldn't really do it from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Dynamic is harder than their normal mode, but what it does is just it scales the enemy's levels to your level, and I always felt challenged. Way more than normal mode. I took it off of dynamic one time, because there was a boss that was a little bit too hard. For the rest of it, I was like, I'm dying consistently, but not too much. I never feel like any of these fights are easy. I never thought any of these fights were, like, bullshit. Consistently throughout, the scaling was perfect. But a lot of games don't do that well. Like Borderlands multiplayer, they scale the enemies if you play with a player that's either higher level or lower level than you, and it fucking sucks. It really doesn't. It does not work. But, like, I wish more games would put a lot of care into their dynamic difficulty, because, like, it made me feel like the game was harder, but it knew that I wasn't ready for some things, and it wouldn't punish me for that, like we were talking about with Resident Evil, where it's like, you're doing too well, fuck you. Like, it's just consistently the same quality. And then I think one we need to talk about is Tears of the Kingdom.
I didn't even know it had that. I had no clue.
Not necessarily their difficulty, but the way they slowly roll out new enemies based on the equipment that you have. Mm-hmm. You remember that, right?
Yes, yeah, okay, that, I guess.
That, and it doesn't work as well in Breath of the Wild, because you don't get the good weapons from the higher level enemies like you do with their horns and stuff that you can fuse in Tears of the Kingdom. I thought that was so smart and worked so well, so that you always were going up against appropriately challenging enemies. And that's what made, I think,
I agree.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything else? Okay.
No, I just agree.
I wasn't sure. That's what really upped the combat in Tears of the Kingdom over Breath of the Wild for me, to make it actually competent. And yeah. I really enjoyed that. And then Left 4 Dead 2, the way they have developer. Is it the developer, or is it like the... Oh, it has a name, doesn't it? Is it the...
Oh, man, I think you're right. I think I fucked it up. Hold on.
Because it has a funny name.
AI Director. It's the director.
The director.
There we go. Sorry.
I think that's so fun, where it's like, oh, you guys are doing pretty well. Fuck you. But it's a multiplayer game, so it's more acceptable.
we might have to launch up some Left 4 Dead after this.
I think that could be in order.
Yeah, and honestly, it never, like, Left 4 Dead also, the director never bothered me. Like, I knew the director was a thing, but it's so low-key, it feels like. Like, when I'm playing...
Yeah, it's not really difficulty. It's more of, like, events.
Yeah, events. And it's like, you know... I'm doing poorly. Here's one health kit. I'm never like, all right, we're all low health, and I open up a doorway and there's 4 health kits. You know, that doesn't happen. I'm always like, here's one. I'm like, thank you, director. You know, it's like shit like that.
I imagine him as the banker from Deal or No Deal.
The banker. He's up in his silhouette, and he's picking up the phone.
Yeah, he's like, here, send him one health kit.
Send him one health. Do you never hear the banker's voice, do you, in that show, right?
I don't think so. I don't think he's a real person, right?
No, he's not a real person. He talks through his like the host, right?
Yeah, I think it's like a team of an analyst that crunch the numbers and send it to Howie Mandel.
Oh, right, it is Howie Mandel, isn't it?
At least he used to be. And then another thing I want to talk about with dynamic or static difficulty is games that lull you in to a false sense of security. I hate that shit. And really? I'm looking at you, Super Meat Boy, the worst offender of this. The beginning of that game is baby game easy, and even like halfway through, you're like, what the fuck is going on here? How am I supposed to do this? Like, you're fighting for your life halfway through that game.
Yeah, that game is really difficult. Hell, dude, kill me. Kill me, dude. I am in hell.
I never finished it because of that. Like, whenever a game does that, where it's like a normal game, and then all of a sudden it's like a fucking abysmal ass experience. Like Super Mario Brothers 1. Recently playing that, the difficulty gets so high so fast halfway through that game. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. I usually like that in games when they put that shit at the very end. When they're like, all right, it's over. I'm serious. Or they put it in post game. Like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, when it's in
But,
post game, I
yeah.
think that's fine.
That's
still
like a
lasts.
pacing. That's a pacing issue. If you're like doing
Yeah.
that shit, then that's also old school style. Like, Mr. Miyamoto. What do you think? I don't know. We got to put this out now.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen.
All right. Well, you have anything else you want to talk about when it comes to these how we play our games?
No, I think this is perfectly covered. I think we got ahead of ourselves a little bit in this section. We brought up some good points because I think I just wanted to talk about what we like and what we dislike personally. And I think now we can crack our little thingies, get our hats on, get our fedoras on, put our analyst thinking caps on, and now we can talk about objective opinions.
Not arbitrary Zoomer opinions.
Yeah, not arbitrary Zoomer opinions. Objective opinions that we are certified to give. This is a joke. Let's continue.
Strapping on the Reddit neck.
Yes. So, difficulty as a selling point. That is extremely common these days. How many times have you seen a game come out that's been like, this game is super hard, advertised as just like difficulty. That's like hip, don't you think? Like being hard is hip, and who do we have to thank for that? Very clear. Dark Souls. Almost a decade ago, Dark Souls came out, and I really don't think the game came out and FromSoft was like, this game is gonna fucking devour you whole. I really don't think they were doing that.
Well, maybe not at first.
No, not at first. I think the game came out. I know they did start to jump into that. Once like the Prepare to Die edition came out, they were fully embraced it, right? But when the game first came out, I don't think they were thinking of that. But the community sort of was like, and just the gamer community as a whole was like, this game is so fucking hard. And then FromSoftware was like, all right, I'm going to take it and run with it. When you really think about it, like you said, the Dark Souls games really aren't they're not the hardest games. They're not the hardest games.
I don't know, man. Demon Souls and Dark Souls are pretty hard.
They're pretty hard, but I played some games where I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Like really, a lot of this is like old school games that are just completely fucking batshit absurd hard as hell. And even like I'm thinking Ninja Gaiden.
Oh yeah.
Like the even the new Ninja Gaiden games, they're pretty old at this point. Even like the Ninja Gaiden games on Xbox, the original Xbox, they're like apparently they're super difficult. It's like, what the hell is this?
I think Streets of Rage is also way harder than people give it credit for.
Streets of Rage, yeah. A lot of beat 'em ups are really difficult. But yeah, Dark Souls kind of got this reputation, and the reputation was really bigger than the game itself. The difficulty of the game itself, I think.
I mean, that's how, I don't know about you, that's how I found out about Dark Souls, is people saying, this is the Dark Souls of shooters. This is the Dark Souls of Nintendo. Like, what the fuck?
We can't avoid that. This is the Dark Souls of platformers. Fucking Crash Bandicoot. Get out of here. I will admit, Crash Bandicoot 1 is quite difficult, because that game gives you nothing to work off of. You run,
but is it difficult because it's hard, or is it difficult because it's bad? I'm just putting that out there.
Haven't played it since quarantine. Jury's out. I liked it, so I'm gonna pretend like it's hard.
Okay.
I'm surprised you don't like the first Crash Bandicoot?
I don't like the first 2 Crash Bandicoots. I like Crash 3 enough.
What? I love Crash 2. Crash 1, I give you a pass on.
I also
Crash
don't
2,
really
I
love
love
most
Crash
of the spin-off ones, like the GBA ones and all that. I think those are pretty bad too.
Oh yeah, well okay, those aren't good. I won't lie about that. But I think Crash 2 is actually Crash 2 was like my Donkey Kong Country 2 before I played Donkey Kong Country 2. I was like, this game's great, and then I played Crash 3, and I was like, I don't know about this.
I just played them when I was young and they were hard, so I gave up.
I think you have to jump on you might have to hop up on the Insane Trilogy if it goes on sale.
Maybe. I'm interested in 4, but I don't know. But Dark Souls of platformers.
Dark Souls of platformers, Crash Bandicoot.
But like that's how I found about Dark Souls, is people saying that, and I think that No one really says that anymore in reviews, especially unless it's a meme. I think now it's become that like hard as nails platformer, or what do they say, like brutally difficult. I think that's the word they always use, is like
Brutally
brutal.
difficult?
Yeah.
Is that the buzzword going around
I think
these
so. That's what
days?
I see. For like a lot of there's a publisher called the Old Blood. They do like boomer shooter stuff, and a lot of
Oh
their
yeah,
things are
yeah,
marketed
yeah.
as like brutal difficulty, and then like a lot of platformers that come out with that are like brutal difficulty or hard as nails. I think that's kind of
Hmm.
where the conversation is shifted for the worst.
Right. That's interesting. See, that's kind of the thing. This is a good. I'm very familiar with Old Blood. No, New Blood. It's New Blood.
New
New
blood. Yeah,
Blood.
sorry, that was my.
I
I
have
was
a
thinking
lot
of
of their games.
Wolfenstein.
Yeah, Wolfenstein, Bloodborne, Fear of the Old Blood. I have a lot of New Blood's works. A Medieval, Dusk. Dusk is a really good one, and they actually have a lot of accessibility options. Like,
They do.
despite their like, oh yeah, this is tough as nails. Like, they're like, yeah, you want to play it on a lighter difficulty? Here you go.
Yeah. Do you see their April Fool's joke this year?
No, what was it?
It was Dusk Demastered, I think, and it was made out of cardboard.
Oh, that's so funny. They have good April Fool's jokes. I remember
Yeah.
one year they did what the hell did they do? It was they took all of their logos and like splash screens and they made it like drawn out of like MS Paint. It was funny.
But my favorite one from them is Ultra Kill, and that one they really lean into like this game is really hard.
Yes.
If you want it, if you want it to be, it doesn't have to be. Like that's all their trailers are like. Look at this SSS combo, million enemies, million damage, and then when I play it, I'm like, can I have it on like normal, maybe like normal light mode, please?
Yeah, and they're like, okay, here you go.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
But how do you think of it as a selling point? Does it work on you? Do you think it's a good thing that the marketing engine is pumping out, or do you think it's just a bit weird?
I mean, yeah, I do think it's a bit strange because it's like when a game is like, this game is really difficult, that can mean one or two things. If the game is made well, it is a good challenge, gets my blood pumping, I can get through it, and then feel good about myself. If it's bad, then it sucks, and I'm mad, and I'm frustrated, and that's significantly less cool. So I'm kind of like, I don't really think about that, and I don't really look at the marketing when I think about that. I also like look at reviews and stuff like that, because I've played a lot of games that are like, this is really difficult, and then I played them, and I don't have a problem with them at all. I played games that aren't advertised as difficult at all, and people have no problems playing it, and I suck at them. But it's kind of just this weird thing that I sort of try to ignore, because I don't think it really gives me any information. Like if a game is difficult, that doesn't turn me off of it. It could be a selling point to me if it's like reasonable. Like it's as much of a selling point as it is not a selling point, because if a game's market is difficult, I'm like, oh, I wonder if I hope this isn't too frustrating, because I just want to have fun primarily. So I hope the difficulty doesn't overtake the fun. So it's really like, it's just kind of this weird thing that I don't really feel much about, like, any which way. I sort of wish it wasn't thrown around as much as it was, because now I feel like difficult games are everywhere, or maybe that's just what I seek for games, and that's why I have a lot of games that are like difficult or have the ability to be difficult.
I think that like AAA development has definitely skewed towards becoming easier and easier over time, but indie games have, I mean, it's a crapshoot, but I think that's a good outlet for fans of like old school arcade style games to really like ramp that up to even higher difficulties than there used to be.
Yeah.
And that's probably where you're seeing a lot of that, unless I'm wrong.
No, I think that makes sense. Definitely, because AAA games, that's the thing. AAA games put a lot of money behind their projects, so they can't afford for it not to sell. It's like horror movies. It's like, I've said this many times. I said this during our Halloween episode. Horror, if you want it to appeal to a wide audience and you want it to be successful, you can't make it too scary. You can't make it too out there, or else people won't buy it. And that's sort of what AAA companies are primarily interested in, right? They need people to buy their product. They make a good product, but hopefully, but it all comes down to the sales, sort of, Like if they put this thing in a game that's like phenomenal, and a choice amount of people are going to like eat it up, but it's going to turn off a majority of audiences, they're probably going to take it out of the game,
Yeah.
For better, for worse.
Yeah, and then there's rhythm games where
Well, rhythm games are the hardest ones.
they just like, I'm trying to think of like, there aren't any AAA rhythm games anymore.
No.
Because, I mean, for a variety of reasons.
Fortnite Festival.
Yeah. But like, think about that. Like, think about a company trying to sell a rhythm game to a small portion of people that feel like they have rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
And then that portion, it can't be too hard. And it has to be a certain selection of music that they like. Like, we're probably never going to get another AAA rhythm game. And there's so many genres like that. And I feel like difficulty factors into that, because if you're taking a swing like that, you have to make sure it's as like marketable and widely appealing as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why genres like rhythm, but then also genres like RTS. We're not getting AAA RTS games, really. Like, we are, but it's an extremely niche audience.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? I don't even like RTS games. I love strategy games. RTS games throw me the fuck off.
I don't know. I don't really dig them either, but I'm just trying to think of like the reason we're getting so many action adventure third-person games is because they're easy to make easy, if that makes sense.
That is true.
You can't make a rhythm game easy without making it boring. You can't make an RTS game easy without making it boring. These games have to be hard.
It's easy to make a story in a third-person action adventure. It's easy to make them easy. It's easy to make gameplay, some type of combat, and it's a tried and true formula. What can you say?
But yeah, that's why I think there's a lot of hard indie games where people are like, I want to make a hard game. I don't care who buys it.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
care
and
if
also,
it's,
yeah. No, because indie games you also spend like $10, and it's like,
well,
I think a
about
lot
that.
of people, not $10, like more like $15. Indie games you pay like $15 to $30, some shit like that, and if it's like really, really difficult, it's not even that big of a deal comparatively to buying like $70 now, and being like, well, I guess I'm just not playing the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really dig when companies market, and by companies I mean like indie publishers pretty much, market their games as being super hard. It's kind of a turnoff to me.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever the scuttlebutt in review culture is that a game is really hard, that also kind of pushes me away from it. I think the last time I played a game that was like universally regarded as hard was Returnal.
Right.
And didn't finish that game.
Yeah.
I liked
a lot
it.
of people did.
I liked it, but I didn't finish it.
Yeah, I think the last thing I want to say about the difficulty as a selling point is that I do think the best games that are difficult, quote unquote, I think the best games make the game feel harder than it is. And I don't know how to continue this train of thought. Do you kind of understand what I mean?
I don't.
I think when you make a difficult game, I think it's really... I don't know. I think it's really effective when you make a game feel harder than it actually is. I think Dark Souls can feel harder than it actually is. I think so many games are much more difficult than Dark Souls, right? But Dark Souls kind of has this X factor where when you die, you get sent back to a checkpoint, which is like... I feel like people think that's antiquated, and Dark Souls is very ballsy for that, but it's not. Dying and getting sent back to a checkpoint is in every game. Almost every single game. You lose your souls on death, though, but you can get them back. That's kind of the thing that makes Dark Souls feel difficult. It's like, oh, I just lost all my shit. I lost all my money, and now I have to go get it back. But if we removed that, don't you think that a lot of the stress would be gone? I think so. I think that if there's nothing on the line, Dark Souls would not feel as hard as it is.
I think games like Ark or Valheim are actually, maybe not Valheim, but like other survival games in that genre are harder than Dark Souls because of how everything has to come together right for you to succeed, and you can
Mm-hmm.
die so quickly and lose so much more than you do in Dark Souls. But I think the reason that we put these Souls games up on a banner, why we put hard as nails platformers up on a banner as being like the hardest of the hard games, and they're going to be marketed that way, is because you lose far more often, and losing or getting a game over is seen as like the ultimate form of difficulty. Like the more I die, the harder this game is.
Mm-hmm.
In Minecraft, I wouldn't say Minecraft's a hard game, but in that game, if I die and lose all of my stuff and I have to start all the way over again, that sucks. But I'm only dying like every couple hours. In Dark
Yeah.
Souls, I'm dying like every 15 minutes.
Yeah. That's honestly, I think that's generous. 15 minutes.
Well, but that okay. We'll talk about it a little bit in the next segment, but I think Dark Souls is hard because it's bullshit. I think I'm gonna be honest. That game is just there's a lot of parts of that game that are just bad, and it makes the game harder than it should be. The later Souls games, I don't think are that hard, but when we go to a game like, let's say, what's a game you would say is harder than those that people don't really talk about because it seems harder than it should be?
Oh, well, I'll tell you what is really much, much, much more difficult than Dark Souls, and has no business being this difficult, is Neo.
Mm-hmm.
I
never
not.
played Neo.
Oh my god, I could not fucking believe what they did. I'm not even kidding you. Neo is probably one of the hardest games I've ever played in my life. I could not believe how difficult they made that game.
What made it so much harder, though?
I don't even know how to explain it to you. I was in like shock and awe at how difficult they made this game. It's I'm trying to think. Imagine so it's Team Ninja, right? And Team Ninja makes those like frantic like hack and slash beat 'em ups, except you're not really as powerful as you are in those traditional Team Ninja games. You are much weaker in Neo, but the game is just as difficult, and you will just get swarmed and ganked and slammed, and you're just getting. It has all the traditional Dark Souls bullshit and new Neo bullshit to like kind of wrap it all up in a little like bun, bow, not a bun, and the DLC gets absurd. I could not believe. I had to resort to a lot of like cheapo tactics, and I was like at the edge of my seat, gritting my teeth, like scraping by on nothing but like dust in some of those boss fights in the DLC. I genuinely could not believe how difficult they made that game. I don't know if I replayed Neo. I don't know if I could do it again. That might have been a one and done. I don't know if I can go back.
Do you think that Neo should have an easy mode?
Are we transitioning? Oh man.
Yeah.
Do I think Neo needs an easy mode?
Yeah.
I really don't know. I really don't. This is one of those questions that I genuinely don't think I have an enlightening answer for yes or no. I genuinely have no clue. It's such a it's such a tough decision. It really is. Would I have preferred there to be an easy baby armor? Maybe. Would I have used it? Likely not. Did this make its way into my final feelings of the game? Yes. That's what
as in you like the game less because it didn't have it, or you liked it more because it didn't?
I don't know, but I will be writing my review going, what the fuck were they thinking when they made this?
Mm-hmm.
And why did I have to almost resort to using the baby armor to proceed through this boss? Why did the game almost make me do this? That's how it makes me feel. This is a really tough question.
With the AAA angle on all this, Team Ninja's most recent game open world third person action game with easy baby combat because
Oh.
their games just don't sell.
What is it? What is it? What is
Rise of the Ronin just came out.
Oh, right. Which is like so unabashedly Neo as well because there's so much shit. There's so much Neo animations. I was looking at it and I was like, is this Neo 3? And even when the game was revealed, I was like, this is Neo 3. And then it was Rise of Ronin. And I was like, oh. And then it came out. It was Neo 3.
Oh my god, I saw screenshots because there's no like Onis or anything in there, so the
Mhm.
bosses are just incredibly large Americans. It's so funny.
It's like, come on. You know, Neo was really cool because there's a lot of yokai and Japanese folklore and mythos and shit like that. You know, I've heard that Neo 2 is actually a phenomenal game. I've actually heard that Neo 2 is, the people who liked Neo 2 love Neo 2 and they rate it like very highly. Neo 1 does not get that treatment. So I really have to jump into Neo 2 and I'm kind of excited for that because that kind of tells me that there was a lower chance of Neo 2 having some shit that's going to gouge my eyeballs out and make me eat them. Because what the fuck were they doing in Neo 1? Dude, I'm so mad about Neo 1. I really am.
I don't know how you can be this mad about it, but also not just be like, yeah, there should be an easier difficulty.
Because that's just the way the cookie crumbles, baby. I'm so in the weeds. I am a part of them. I am one and the same of the weeds.
I am weed, MGK.
I am weed. I am. You can't remove me. You cannot dissect me and carefully remove me from this brush that I have made my home in. I am a part of it. There is no separating me. And it is for the better and it is for the worse at the same time. And that's why I have such a difficult time answering this question because I really don't like the idea of, and I say forcing developers, that's not what's happening. It's not like you have to put an easy mode in or else we're not releasing your game. That's not what's happening. But it just feels weird. I can't imagine From Software being like, we've heard fan feedback and we're going to add an easy mode in. I can't imagine them doing it. And I don't think it just feels like it doesn't serve any purpose to what they're putting out, like as artistic merit, right? So that's like sort of like the quote art side. But then the consumer side is that I can completely understand how upsetting it is to be walled off from a product that you just spent money on. So I agree. I completely agree with you that it's really fucking annoying, and that there probably should be I don't have any problem if a game has an easy mode. I don't have any problem with it at all. It just feels sort of strange to think about making games have an easy mode that don't already have an easy mode, and this might just be this might be like a gamer privilege thing. It's like, oh, I can play these games already. I can do it, so it doesn't matter to me, you know. Like just like complete unabashed like real world privilege. Like I already have it. I have the goods. So I don't have to worry about that. So I don't care about it type of thing. It's hard for me to think about solutions when it's not really an issue for me. You know what I'm saying?
I gotcha, but it is an issue for a lot of people.
I know it's an issue for a lot. That's why I'm saying this is just how real world privilege and prejudice kind of happens, because it's not an issue for me. And I can't imagine it being an issue for me, and I can't get in the headspace like a lot of other people have. So that's why I don't really have an answer, because I know how damaging it can be to be like, no, developers should not be intentionally. Developers should not have difficulty options. We should be making games harder. We should be gatekeeping things. I know how damaging that is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, if only we could apply our gamer empathy to real life problems.
No, I play games to avoid that.
Get your politics out of my game.
No. I was going to say earlier in this episode, earlier before we even started the episode, I was watching you type in some of your notes, because I was also typing in some notes, and you wrote unabashed yes for should hard games have options. And I was thinking like, you know, this is the one thing that I agree with the boomers. Kids are too soft these days. Kids are too soft. I'm going to do one of those cartoons. I'm going to make one of those political cartoons
Dilbert.
That's like, yeah, Dilbert. It's sort of like, these kids got no backbone. All they know is easy mode and sit on couch and air conditioning. Back in my day, we had ice cubes. That's what we had. So, but yeah, yeah.
I don't know. It really bothers me. This is something that consistently bothers me in the games industry is the dick riding and like unabashed like attacking of people who request games to be easier so they can just play them.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
I know you're not doing
that.
that.
No, I agree. That's why I think that those like guys, those like douche bro type dudes who are like that, I think they should kind of be more like. Well, this sounds a bit weird to say, but I think they should be more like me in that aspect. Because it's like if you're not even gonna like if you're like don't be an asshole about it. It's because it's not even affecting you anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
Move on with your life.
The big argument is the artistic merit of,
right.
And it's always inevitably it comes back to the Souls games, but I see this argument in a lot of other games as well, especially like the newer Call of Duties, because the multiplayer tends to be a little bit unfair to certain types of people who use like, accessibility controllers and stuff like that. But in like Souls games, for example, the big argument that I see from these interesting fellas is that if you change the game to have difficulty settings, you're taking away from the artistic merit that you're supposed to feel that sense of adversity and overcoming it through these boss fights and levels. But the truth of the matter is that you can still get that. That's what I got from Celeste, using the accessibility functions. And there's plenty of people... Okay, so the portion of people who want to play these games that physically can't, I'll be the first to admit, it's a lot smaller than the portion of people that can. So do we have to cater to them? We should, but companies are out there to make money, and if it's in their best interests to not include accessibility features, they're not going to. But there's been studies that have shown that including accessibility options in games, or even in films, getting like certain subtitle options and stuff in movie theaters, vastly increases the pool of people that accept this product as positive, and therefore brings more money in the long run. So yeah, as a and like the business side of things, I do think accessibility should be taken seriously, but honestly, the argument that they take away from the artistic merit is just complete bullshit.
Yeah, I think it's silly. I think it's like, I think that's, it's the most thinking cap answer sort of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know exactly what I meant by that analogy.
I know what you mean. It's because it sounds intellectual say that
it does.
If From Software was to scale their games to have an easy mode, then more players would choose to play it in easy, and they won't get the physical dopamine experience of overcoming the boss like they were supposed to. That's their problem. That's not your problem. There should be maybe a message at the beginning that's like, hey, we really encourage you to try it on a harder difficulty, and if you really are not having a good time, feel free to drop it down, whatever. But gatekeeping, I think, is just for the worst, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon for games like this. And that's just kind of a shame, mainly for people who physically cannot play the game, but also you look to players like my friends who have never finished a Souls game. I know that there's fun to be had, and at the end of the day, these are just toys that we're playing with. We're just adult man-baby children that like to play with our toys. But this is like not sharing your toys on the playground. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's literally exactly what it is.
So, I don't know. I get fired up about that whenever a new Souls game comes around and that discourse eventually comes up again. And I'm not like super read up on the business end of it, but we gotta cut out this idea that gatekeeping things based off of their artistic merit is a real thing. You're gatekeeping it because you're just an ass.
Yeah, I really think the media around it is worse than the actual conversation at hand. You know?
Probably.
That's what I think, because there's so much. It's like a hot topic. Like, should this, you know, this game is so difficult. This game should have an easy mode, or you know, it's like whenever an article like that comes out on like IGN, everyone's like, oh, dunk on the IGN guy, dunk on this guy, you know, stuff like that. It's like, when it's really not that deep, you know, it's somehow become this deep thing, and it really is not that.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, we can't force these developers to change their games, but I think being vocal about the fact that we would enjoy options is the only way to get options implemented. And you even see in Elden Ring, there are some options to make the game a little bit easier, but it's like barely there at all.
Yeah.
I think Lies of P, if I'm not mistaken, actually did have some decent features. I'd have to read up on that, but I like to see, like, what's that game that's coming out? That whole can of worms about other discourse, but Stellar Blade. There's actually a lot of accessibility features in that game, and that is presented as a difficult action hack and slash Souls-like. So, it's possible.
Yeah, that is possible. And you know what? This just dropped on my skull right now. Just remember something. A really
Divine
good
intervention.
Way, yeah, divine intervention. A really good way that a developer that has done difficulty actually is Inscription. I just remember this right now. In Inscription, in the first act, so there's no difficulty options in Inscription, at least not from my memory. But in the first act of Inscription, there is, when you die, you get the death cards. Do you remember that?
Yeah, you don't get. Do you get one every time?
You do. You make a death card every time, and it stays in your loop. It stays in the game, the entire thing. You can make like 20 death cards, and then you can find all 20. And the game sort of throws you a bone in that way, where the more you die, you create death cards, and then you can create powerful death cards, and you can find it in your next run, and that can be the thing that carries you to victory. That's a really cool way of making difficulty, because it kind of makes you feel like you did something, like you failed, but you still did something, and that thing might have been the thing to take you to victory. That shit is really cool. That's just a side thing that I just thought of it right now, but that is really amazing, and that's just one of the ways that I think gaming can get creative and make games accessible and challenging without sacrificing design and imbalance. That's just one of the many ways that I think games can do that. Make it, like, keep it a static difficulty, but still make it accessible to everyone. That's like a cool way that I think is good. Not saying that every game needs a static difficulty that does that, but I'm just saying that's one of the cool ways that I think developers can use to think outside the box to make it so their games are still difficult, but are still the product that they want. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
and that's why I think I'm so enamored by dynamic difficulty options, is because it does things like that, where it forces people to get creative, and if they put a lot of thought and care into it, it can actually make the game better for people who normally play on a harder difficulty, or who normally play on an easier difficulty at the same time. But if it's lazy, well, we kind of already talked about that.
Yeah. If it's lazy, then that's it. That's over.
Yeah, and I especially like it in certain games where you can manipulate it in a way. So, like in Resident Evil 2, like, I know there's dynamic difficulty in there. If I really wanted to, I could go through that game and miss shots on purpose so that I can get a one-hit headshot and then keep moving. You know what I mean? Like, letting people use the dynamic difficulty as like a mechanic of the game is almost more interesting. Like the death cards, trying to figure out how you can get like the best death card possible so you can die only a couple of times and then move on. Obviously, you have to have played the game a couple times before, but I like those layered mechanics like that. Yeah,
good game good, bad game bad. I feel like that can be a lot of our conversations summed up. Unfortunately, kind of makes we should get an AI algorithm that does that. Just for 2 hours, be like, this game example is really bad, so I think this is bad. And then you go, well, I think this is good, so it's good. And then I go, wait a minute, I just thought of the good, and then it just goes on. And then we get $1 million fucking dollars. That's what happens.
I would love that.
Yeah, difficulty of life. That's what we need to switch on.
Oh, if I could turn difficulty on life down, I would. Let me tell you what.
It's like oh man. I'm thinking of probably the last thing I'll bring up. Another great way of difficulty, sort of adjustable. This is adjustable difficulty, sort of dynamic in the same way. Last of Us 2, you can completely customize what aspects of the game are difficult. Now that's creative. It's like, I beat the game on Grounded, but I beat the game on a fake Grounded. Grounded was too difficult for me. I couldn't do the no HUD. I couldn't do the hard stealth. I couldn't do the no resources. But I changed it so I had the grounded combat, but like hard mode resources. So I still had like enough resources to play the goddamn game, and it was my favorite way of playing the game because I was still like I still had a way to fight back, but those enemies were kicking my fucking dick in, man.
That's interesting. I forgot about how you can customize all that in there. I really like that.
It's good. It's great. I think it's really smart, and I do appreciate it.
Last of Us 2 and Celeste. Make your games like that. No, nothing else. That's
Yeah,
the message we're touting today.
When you make your visual novel that you've been thinking about your entire life, when you finally make it, look at Celeste and go and think about how you're gonna put in a difficulty switch.
Better do it, or we're not
Yeah.
going to play it. And if we don't play it, no one's going to play it. We're tastemakers.
There definitely is a fucking visual novel out there that has an easy mode where you're like, if you pick the wrong option, it asks you if you want to go back.
You pick the wrong. You like
totally
you tell
exists.
the girl that she's just like stupid idiot, and then she's like, "Oh, thanks."
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's what my nickname was when I was in high school. I was like, oh, okay, whatever, dude.
All right, I think that's a good place to end it. Good discussion today.
Yes, that was a thinking cap discussion, if I do say so myself.
I love these episodes.
All right.
All right. Well, we'll be back in a couple weeks with another episode. Probably just talking about some games. We also floating it out there. Not really, nothing set in stone, but there's been discussions in the back end. There's a Fallout TV show coming out.
Oh,
We might do something with that. We might.
are you? I'm a Fallout guy. Are you a Fallout guy?
I am a Fallout guy. You know who else is a Fallout guy?
Oh, is it could it be the return of Mr. Nolan?
Another crossover with Nolan
man.
from Movies Mentality. It may be coming.
We might have to hop up on the dial for that one.
Might. And we'll just cut
Alright.
this out if it doesn't happen. But if I don't cut this out, assume it's happening.
All right. I like that.
All right, everyone. We will see you soon. I said it too early. All right, everyone. Until next time. See ya.
All right, see ya.